Thank you a lot. I know that you were probably waiting for only 2 speakers today, and probably you were hoping to be partying already this time. Actually, a couple of days ago, I was enjoying my life, relaxed and happy, because I didn't know that I would volunteer myself into this experience. But here I am, surprise even for myself. I'm Elena Lukashova. I'm a front-end developer at AutoXY S.p.A. It's an Italian company, and I work and I've been living in Italy for the last 15 years. So if at some point I will pronounce English words in a funny way, or do like this, or speak too quickly, you will know the reason for it. So today I would like to talk about a topic that I think that is often underestimated, but which can make a huge impact on product decisions and on the success of these decisions. So it's all about collaboration between front-end and product team, and how the front-end can be something more than just the last step of product, let's say, development and ideation. Before we deep dive into main topics, I would like to provide you some context, especially because the companies I'm talking about are not known here. So what we do in our life, we are actually lead generation platforms, and we serve the automotive industry. So we have 3 platforms, DriveK, AutoXY, and Kilometer 77, and we work on 3 markets, Italy, Spain, and France. And of course, since we are an Italian company, Italy is our main market from all points of view. We are quite a small company, even though we are owned by the largest media conglomerate in Italy. We're just 35 people, and we have an annual revenue about 12 million. I also wanted to provide you this performance, let's say, details, even though they're very average numbers, because since we are working in automotive industry, the selling of cars depends a lot on the market, on the dynamics, on economic situation, even on the season, because there are just, for example, holiday seasons that in Italy and Spain are quite, precise. So summer holidays is not the moment when the people want to buy something or make an investment. But why I put these numbers here is to make you understand that for us, we can have as many users as we can on our platforms, but the key indicator with which we measure our success are leads. So for us, the conversion is our business, and this makes us a very result-oriented company, and the front-end part especially is very linked to the business. So just a couple of words of our front-end side. As I told you, we have 3 different platforms, and they are very different, as you can see. From the design point of view, design systems are completely different. The tech stack is, it has nothing in common, literally. And it's not actually our choice, because we don't like to suffer that much. But a couple of years ago, these 3 platforms were completely separated. So the owners were different, the tech teams were different. Today, they are all part of the same portfolio after different acquisitions and business deals. And that is to say that we are a browser-based context. So this differs us from the previous speakers. And we have very various reality. We have very different products that have own tech stack, own design system, and some development particularities, let's say. And all this is shaped by a small team of only 3 product members and 11 developers. 11 is a total number for backend and frontend. So how do we make it work somehow? So the first point is very important, in my opinion, is early involvement. What does it mean? That even though front-end is seen as a last step, of product implementation. So we are people who translate the design on the website, but actually, in our case, we try to be the part of the conversation much earlier, because you know perfectly that very often product people and dev teams, they just speak different languages. They don't clearly understand the difficulties of each team, and that is why it's so important to enter the conversation earlier. So if we think about, okay, this is like a bit simplified process, of course, but if we think about a normal flow of the product development, of a feature development, so usually front ends enter somewhere there. And in our case, depending on the feature, depending on its complexity, we can enter in the definition process. So even before the design, we can enter in the design phase and decide together with the designer what can work and how we can implement it. And sometimes we even enter in the discovery phase. So we have the possibility to come to our product team and just say, okay, I thought about this feature because, of course, we have some unique knowledge of the front end part of the website, so we are closer to the user and we can provide some extra insights. Of course, the collaboration doesn't limit to the front-end parts. I don't want to put us at the center of the conversation. It's an overall approach. Of course, when we talk with product, we talk about, is the design buildable? So we know that the designers like inventing stuff that is complex, very nice, and very appealing to the user, but then at the end, sometimes they don't really understand how complex it can be development-wise. What is the best way to implement it? What are the possible edge cases, and so on. And we collaborate with the backend as well. We share ownership because we need to understand what should be handled on which side. We discuss mutual needs, we define the best approaches. So it's really like a co-creation process, and I think that this is often leads us to better results, even though it may require more time in the pre-development phase. But then when we deploy, when we release the feature, it brings us better results than if we weren't doing it. So another particularity of ours is that we do not have QA. We do not have people who test anything. So when you don't have dedicated people for this, quality becomes an everybody's job, and everyday job as well. So how we manage, even though it's not our direct responsibility, but how we manage to ensure the quality throughout the process of ideation and development and design. I think that Matvey might suffer from the slides that I'm about to share because he was talking about a totally different situation. But yeah, for example, we have a very detailed design always for anything, even for the internal products. Yeah, this is, I know that this slide is not very readable, but this is to explain how detailed our designs are. So this is only a smallest part of a huge Figma space. And in this case, we have a description of one simple user action. So we have this pop-up that is multiple tabs. And this is only to explain us what happens when the user decides to go back to the previous tab. So we have the whole description. We have every step of the process. And this approach, again, I know that it requires more effort from the designer before the development, but for us, it helps already to prevent, to see all the possible edge cases and to avoid some problems in production. Another thing, sorry, Matvey, but we have a very clear acceptance criteria and a very clear and detailed description of our tickets. Again, it's only a part of a long Jira issue. So we use this approach of given, when, then. So given describes the context when the action happens, when the action that is expected from the user, and then describes the consequence of this action, the expected consequence of this action. So, and we have acceptance criteria for mobile, we have it also for the desktop version, because on the desktop, sometimes our design changes and it can change a lot. So again, for us, it's like an instruction, it's very clear, and it allows us to avoid the problems in the testing phase. Okay, even though we don't have QA, I don't know why I'm not using this, but even though we don't have QA, we do have a beta environment, so at least that. We are not so crazy to release everything on prod without checking it. In our case, what are the advantages of our beta? So first of all, it's an environment that is testable on both desktop and mobile, on real devices. It wasn't always the case, actually. And we did have some problems because of that, especially on iOS with some particular features. But luckily today we can be more sure of what we are releasing. And also we had the possibility to test both real-life prod data, because we have prod API, and mock data. So for the features that are completely new, so in prod we don't have the dedicated data structure, or we need to create a new endpoint or something else, we can develop something new on beta, for the beta, and we will take it from the beta API. And yeah, in this case, backend developer will deliver his part, and he will also test his part. So everyone is responsible, is the owner of the part that he delivers. And yeah, this allows product people to arrive on beta when everything is more or less ready. What are the challenges? Of course, sometimes we have beta environment that is a bit disaligned with prod. It happens. It happens when maybe someone forgot to clean up some feature that was supposed to be released, but then for some reason it wasn't. Or it happens when we work on several features in the same moment, and they are all in the testing phase. So it can be the case that they touch somehow the code in the same files or something like this. It's not something that happens often, but unfortunately it happens. It's a bit difficult to avoid it because, again, we are a small team and we have a lot to maintain, to develop. But yeah, in general, at least we have this possibility to test on beta. Again, another particularity of ours, because we are such a small team and we have such numerous products, that we have one developer for one feature. So we never develop, we never put more than one front-end developer on the same feature, even though it's very complex, even though it may require a couple of weeks of development. And this is actually, it may have some downsides from the time perspective, but actually in this case the developer becomes an owner of the logic, of the design discussions, of the delivery, and from my point of view it helps to focus more on the feature, to have a cleaner code because it's written by one person, and also in the case if you need to make a handover to your colleague, again, you understand everything that is happening there. And yeah, the last thing is code review. I know it's maybe something that we all know how important it is, but in our case, we don't have, maybe for some features, but in general, our approach is that everyone can review everyone's code. Of course, it depends on the language that you are specialized in, but in general, when I came to the company, I started to review the code of my team lead straight away, even though they had much more experience than me. Why? Because I was fresh. I was probably more informed on the new stuff, because we do know that the more experience you have, the less you tend to inform, maybe to read something new, because you have your approaches to doing things. So in our point of view, everyone can bring a fresh perspective and some suggestion and a nice idea to how to improve the code quality. And the last thing that is very, very important in our case, it's A/B testing. We're huge fans of A/B testing because we are a lead generation company. So we are very results oriented. We can't allow ourselves to deploy something that may somehow impact negatively the performance of our website, because for us it's our business. And yeah, in our case, it's not about the gut feeling. It's not about like one-person decision, but everything is guided by testing. We make nearby 30 tests per year. Of course, it can vary. And 60% more or less of our A/B tests become real features that then are available to all users. I know this number may not seem enough, but actually it's not so simple and not so straightforward with A/B tests for several reasons. So first of all, one A/B test doesn't mean one feature. So when we are convinced that something would work, we will try to run more tests, even if the previous one failed. Also, failed test doesn't mean bad result, because a failed test for us is an indication that our control version is valid, it works, it performed well, and the user like it. So for us, it's, let's say, no results is a bad result, because even a no result thing, so when no difference between the control version and the new version is measured, for us it's also a result. So we see that, okay, our current situation and the new idea that we have, they perform in the same way. So we are actually free to release whatever we want or to keep the current version. But in general, I mean, any result is good. Any result is a learning opportunity for the performance of your website. So just a couple of words of the tool that we use and which that data we measure. I know, but maybe it's less interesting for the front-end part, but we use S.p.A. It's a quite famous platform for A/B testing. And of course, since we are a lead generation company, conversion rate and qualification rate for us are two very important indications. So I put here both very negative results and very positive results of the test. And again, the relevance of this data for us can depend. For example, sometimes it happens that the test doesn't reach the significance. Significance for S.p.A. It's their own metric, but it means that the result, the difference that is measured, is not due to a case, to a poor case, to a poor coincidence. So sometimes it happens that the test runs and we do see the results, but the significance is so low that if we see that for a couple of weeks the significance doesn't change, it may mean that you should just stop this A/B test. It will not bring you relevant result, but as I told you before, again, it's also a result. Code-wise, A/B testing is quite simple because we have these static flags that we use in PHP function. So we have this feature toggles, query parameter, very simple, and then we just read it in our PHP templates, and based on presence or absence of this feature toggle, we render or no some kind of template, component, and so on. An important thing about feature toggles, as much as I love them, is that they do have their life cycle, and this life cycle should be managed. But again, this life cycle can be managed without the collaboration between the product and the front end, because as a front-ender, I don't have the vision of what is happening on the A/B test side. So when the test goes well, of course, I am informed that I need to release this feature as a default one. But when it fails, sometimes it happens that the product people can forget to inform me. But yeah, we are trying to improve this process through product tech sync, because Otherwise, we will end up with the code base full of components that just are not used, that stay there because they depend on that precise feature toggle that are not used anymore. And I also wanted to tell you a case study that will show you a bit the difference of the absence of this pre-delivery collaboration, let's say, and then what happens when this collaboration is present. So we had this, this is our vehicle detail page, so the page that every vehicle on our platform has, and basically it's the page with the full information that we have available about that vehicle. And we had that gallery, the gallery that is static one with the images. You can open like a swiper, so very, very simple one. And yeah, but the thing is that we are also huge fans of content creation because it's one of our marketing levers. We do have a huge fan base on Instagram, on YouTube. We collaborate with content creators to create car overviews or some funny videos, so everything that works. For us, it's a way to engage our users and to invite them to visit our website. So we did have all this amazing interactive content, and so we thought, okay, why should this content live only on our social media when we can use it in our gallery? And then that's how the first version of this redesign was born. And yeah, unfortunately, I didn't manage to find like a more interactive content, but this is supposed to be like a GIF. And afterwards, after you click on this, the whole video would open and so on. What was the problem with this development? So let's say that we were building the plane while we were flying for different reasons. First of all, tech people were involved in this remake at the late stage when the design was already approved, let's say. It was the first experience for everyone to use YouTube API. I don't know how many of you had any experience with Google APIs. They're usually not very friendly, and the documentation changed a lot over time. We had unexpected behavior on iOS in prod, because at that time our beta wasn't so smart to allow us to test everything on real devices. And that led to huge amount of reworking, refining during the development process, and of course, in a huge delay in delivery. So I think I doubled the time that I was supposed to work on it. And yeah, that was a very sad story. And guess what? The test failed, of course. So huge amount of effort, time, nerves, and everything, and it didn't work. So, but we still liked the idea. We still had all this content. So we said, OK, maybe we are doing something wrong. Let's try again. And we made the second design that is actually more complex, because here we don't have like a GIF content, but it's already a video that should be with audio, without audio, depending on various user actions. It's all like gallery in loop and so on. So design-wise, it was actually more complex, but we changed our approach before the development. So on that stage where the design is decided. So in this case, I was involved from the beginning. The designer discussed with me the possible options that they had for this new version. Also, we did have our painful experience from the previous A/B test. So we did know all the downsides of the YouTube API, of the iOS platform. And of course, it's not like we managed to do everything without any change, but these fine-tunings were really very small. And actually took less time to develop this design, even though it was more complex, and we had no delay in delivery. And guess what? This test won. So I think that the insights from this storytelling can be summed up in two main points. First of all, when developers join the conversation, early, tests become smarter, and also the results could be much better. Of course, it's not magic pill that will make everything work perfectly. Still, we don't know what the user will like, but let's say that from my experience, the possibility that user will like it and that we will impact our conversion in a positive way, it's much higher. And the second side, of course, that same idea with different design can lead to a totally different impact in prod and on the performance of our website. So, to sum up everything, Frontend is not the last step of product development. It's not only the phase where and when the product comes to life, but it's also where better decision can begin. And if you're not invited to this conversation in your company, just my personal advice, start it, ask questions, be curious, try to engage your product team to understand better the why of some stuff is happening, the why of some features are proposed, because we are the closer part to the user, and from my opinion, we can provide really valuable insights to the product. That's it. Thank you.